Christian, how you feeling coming out of getting a bunch of time there in that game on Tuesday? How you feeling?
Yeah, feeling good. Physically, fitness-wise, I felt really good. Thought I was in a good place then. I worked hard. I worked really hard. Our staff did a really good job of, preparing me for 4 games. I mean, to play 40 minutes on my first game back, says a lot about the work that I did. But the staff as well. They really had a good plan going into it.
There was comments from Schmetzer a number of weeks ago that the goal would be the Kansas City game, and then that got moved up to the Cincinnati game. Was there a moment during your rehab where things took a turn for the better?
Yeah. I mean, took a turn for the worse. I mean, rehab in general is a bunch of up and downs, and that's my first time realizing this. Right? You have good and bad days. There are days where you don't even feel like you want to be in because you just feel terrible. And then there's other days you feel like you're on cloud 9 because you feel so great. And then you get humbled real fast. So, for me, trying to ride that wave and be steady Eddie. And the good days were really like, a week and a half ago, not being able to kick a ball pretty hard, and then it progressing within 3-4 days, and feeling really confident about the Cincy game.
I just wanted to ask about that. I mean, because your durability, has been incredible. So, how much pain were you in, and was this like the most like in your life? I guess that you've had surgery, injury, thing like that.
Yeah, I was in a miserable state. I got to be honest. It was a pain tolerance thing where, I couldn't really kick a ball, and I couldn't sprint. I couldn't get to 80-85% of speed, and so playing for a month like that, and trying to help the team, me being a selfless person, trying to contribute in any way I could, and then there got to a point where I couldn't even practice. So it was a difficult decision, and I'm glad I made it because I came back really fast and I feel great, and hopefully we could make a push for the playoffs, and me get up to speed very, very quickly.
So when you say a month, are you talking like the Atlanta game, or like what game like where it was really like I'm not going to be able to be myself? Like,
yeah, we played against Nashville. I shot the ball. I felt a pop, and then after the Nashville game, I think it basically was a month until we played Salt Lake, I think, and I kicked another ball. I felt a pop on the other side. So it was a matter of a month or so, and then taking 6 weeks to essentially a week to decide on surgery, and then 5 weeks to rehab. So it was quite a bit of time where I wasn't feeling 100%.
Was there a point where you were playing where you were becoming conscious of the possibility that you were sort of doing more harm, not even just to yourself, but maybe even to the team, by kind of that you sort of had to make a decision where you took yourself out of it a little bit?
Yeah, there's always thought processes because I wasn't at 100%, right? You always want to help the team, but to a certain extent, right, where you're not kind of tearing your body apart and not really doing yourself any favors or your team any favors. So there was a point, and honestly, it wasn't until I would say surgery time where I was just like where I couldn't train anymore as well as I could have, and I got to a point where I needed to see a specialist. So it really wasn't until then, but I definitely noticed a drop in performances, and it was difficult to hold myself accountable when it's hard to play at 100%. So it's good that it's all over with now, and then I'm back to my normal self.
What kind of feedback were you getting from like the physios, the team medical folks? During this whole.
Yeah, it was a pain tolerance thing where how much you can tolerate, right? And if you could play through it. A lot of people have gone through this, and athletic pubalgia, happens to soccer players all the time, and you're doing rehab simultaneously, and you're hoping that it goes away with time. And we limited the amount of practice time and all that stuff that can certainly hurt it. So we're doing everything possible to avoid surgery and hope that it goes away. But it got to a point where, I just couldn't do that anymore.
How concerned are you about World Cup and that roster, making that roster?
It's certainly on my mind. I wouldn't say it's something that I'm thinking about all the time, because you got to control what you can control, and that's playing well, being fit, being in a good state of mind. Look, the decision is going to be made by Greg and the rest of the coaching staff, and I want to make it difficult by competing at a really high level and making my case. But I'm going to control what I can control, and that's getting back to full fitness and ending the year on a really strong note and making a push for the playoffs.
Do you think that if you were, played a big role in the fact of getting you guys to the playoffs, do you think that would say a lot for you, your fitness and all that, as far as that goes, making that roster?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I worked really hard to get back, and of course the World Cup is part of the reason, right? You want to be able to play in competitive games before going into camp and potentially being selected. So the more games I play, the more minutes I play, if we can get into the playoffs and play competitive games, I think I give myself a better chance of making the squad. But we have to make that push now, right? We've been talking about it for a month now, and if I can do my part and help the team in any way, I think it'll mean a lot to Greg and the coaching staff. But the fact that I already played 40 minutes or so in my first game back, I think shows a lot to the staff.
To go to the opposite scenario, regardless, let's say that you were not going to make the playoffs, how comfortable are you with everything that you've showed Greg so far and everything you've done this season to have your name be up there to go to Qatar?
Yeah, I feel like he understands that I understand the system really well, that I'm good around the guys. I'm gonna train to the best of my abilities each and every training. I think he knows what he's gonna get, is what I'm trying to say. He knows what I bring to the team, and then it's just a matter of, I think, showing if I'm fit enough, right? If I'm back to my normal self. And I feel like I'm getting there, and that's going to be important down the stretch. But look, it's the World Cup, and everybody's trying to compete for those spots, and I'm just another guy that's trying to do so as well.
Did you get any communication from Greg, like if you were healthy, you would have been on the roster or not this time around?
Not necessarily communication like that, but there was communication between myself and Greg about surgery and whatnot, and the timelines that the surgery brought, and it was I think I wanted everybody's opinion going forward if I was going to make that decision on surgery, and I'm glad I did so, because I felt more comfortable, and I understand my role with the national team. I might not play 90 minutes, but if I can keep the level of training sessions and be ready when my name is called upon, that's kind of the role that I have there. So if I'm not 100%, then he might as well not take me. So that's I think that was a decision that also went into getting surgery as well.
As far as did you have the opportunity to watch the U.S. team's friendlies? And there was some critique that there wasn't a lot of heart shown, or I don't know what you kind of gathered from that. There was some critique about it, negative.
Yeah, I think it wasn't our best performances, against Saudi Arabia and Japan. I think two disciplined squads. In a stadium that was, maybe 10% full. It was a difficult camp, I think. And I think it's okay to be honest at times, but I think the foundation is set, right? And I think that there's more positive than negative going into the World Cup. Being part of the national team, where I think the average age was 23, and we're the youngest squad going into the World Cup. There's always going to be nerves. There's always going to be butterflies, and I think the beauty of our team is that you have a bad game like that, and the young guys are still fearless going into the next one. And I think that's what the positive that we're going to get out of the squad that we have, is that they're going to be fearless and confident going into the World Cup. And look, there's a lot of time between the World Cup and now, and guys are going to find form, guys are going to dip in form, and it's important that everybody kind of finds their rhythm going into the World Cup as well.
Do you kind of find yourself like do you find yourself saying things like whatever happened in these friendlies like literally doesn't matter because all that matters is what happens in Qatar? Is that a mantra that is useful, or is it can you not afford to throw away, ignore any performance?
No, I don't think as a national team, as players, you ignore performances. I think it's important to acknowledge what we did right, what we did wrong. In the Japan game, we kind of played into their hands. We weren't mentally, physically where we needed to be. I felt that we're so athletic, right? And we should have used that to our strengths. And then the Saudi game, we could talk about games that kind of seem like trap games, but you take everything, you take the negative and learn from it. And I think that's important to do. And I think Greg does a good job of that, understanding and realizing what we did wrong and improving on that. So I don't think you kind of throw the game away and look forward to the World Cup, because you have to embrace the struggle as well, embrace what you did wrong and correct those mistakes. So I think the coaching staff, the federation, all together will do a good job of correcting those mistakes and getting better as we get on.
Just to be perfectly clear, you've never had any other surgeries or broken bones or anything like that in your career?
I've had broken bones, I've had ankle problems, but none that have really kept me out of the game, and so this is foreign territory for me. Yeah.
When was the last time you broke a bone?
2017, I fractured my arm.
Oh, that's
I had the cast.
Oh, you did. Okay,
you
yeah, I do.
played through that,
I
right?
played through that.
Yeah.
First game was miserable.